Things I Never Told My Doctor, Part 5 by John P. Gallagher. Chapter 10. After getting to Madison, Wisconsin, I was encouraged to break poor habits and learn good habits with the assistance of Dr. Walters. I could see why some people gave her the nickname Ice Queen. If you went against her suggestions, you'd be creating problems. She always took the initiative for improvement on an ongoing basis. I was making so much more progress compared to my previous psychiatrist and therapist in Chicago. I did not feel I could talk openly with them. Maybe that was all they felt I could handle. There was so much lack in consideration of my needs compared to my mass in therapy. I had a pot smoking habit on Ally Drive when I moved to Madison. Dr. Walters explained that the pot crops in Mexico were being sprayed by the Drug Enforcement Agency. I replied, and the people who sell you the pot also spray it with who knows what for more effect. The pot and other drugs in Stream, Illinois created many delusions for me, which I started to unravel with the assistance of Dr. Walters. She thought my writing a book about it would be good therapy. I started working. I had a job at a restaurant bringing dirty dish tubs into the dishwashing area and washing the dishes. The cook dumped oven cleaner down the drain and laughed, saying, "This stuff can cause cancer." I was not sure if he was joking or not. I thought that these people were some real screwballs. Once I went to work with a bandage on an open wound on my hand, and the bandage was loose. Out in the dining area, customers could see my bandage. Waitresses were getting quarter tips from the customers. The boss was being a bully towards me, telling me I was slow, so I threw down my apron and I quit. A couple weeks later, I went a few blocks past the restaurant to a retail store to apply for a job, since they had a now hiring job sign in the window. I was hired when I finished filling out the application. I really enjoyed working there. I started getting letters from the Social Security Administration saying that they were going to reduce my disability check since I had employment income. I got quite a few letters over the months that I was working. I called the Social Security Administration local office, and they told me that for every $2 over $65 in a month, they reduced my disability check by $1. I was receiving two different checks from Social Security. One was based on having earned it SSDI, and the other, SSI, was given so you have enough money to live on. I learned that they didn't reduce the SSDI check if you were working. Although if you work 9 months full time, you can lose all your benefits from Social Security, since they will say you are now gainfully employed. I wondered what it would be like to get all my check as SSDI and just work part time. I started to research the Social Security rules for getting SSDI, since I thought this would be an ongoing thing for me, since I didn't seem to be able to work full time more than a few months at a time, and that is how it always was with my past employment. I was admitted to Mass General Hospital to try medications that Dr. Walters thought would be more effective for my correct diagnosis. She told me I seemed to have mood swings, which is a bipolar disorder, not paranoid schizophrenic, which my Chicago doctor diagnosed me with. She wanted to try my medication to see if there was a change. I was started on lithium. Chapter 11. I moved out on my own again. I was thinking about what I was going to do with my life and how I would get there. I started finding things in Madison that I could do, enjoy, and be a part of. I was on my way to doing everything I dreamed, hoped, and wished for doing all my adolescent life. Since I had been on my own, I was pretty much over my pot habit, but had poor cigarette and alcohol habits. What I believed about these habits was based on my exposure to smoking and drinking when I was growing up. These beliefs were carried over into my thoughts or beliefs about mixing alcohol with psychiatric medications. I often thought that the doctors were being more careful than necessary. I thought that I didn't have to carry this to such extremes. I thought they were being too cautious. I did not know the real dangers. I'd fall back on what some people would say about doctors. What do they know? They don't always know what they're talking about. Dr. Walters was changing my beliefs about all of that. Over time, I could see that she was right and not the others. I started researching housing and urban development, rental assistance, and other government programs for mentally disabled people. I researched Social Security disability rules and the homestead tax refund qualifications. I learned the basics of these programs from a course in high school. When I was in high school, President Carter made this class a course requirement to graduate. Our teacher wrote on the blackboard, Catalog of Federal Domestic Assistance. He told us that it was a public document that lists the government agencies to contact for everything we learned in the class. I was overdosing on aspirin before class. The only thing I got out of the class was that I remembered the name of the book. When I got in my apartment downtown Madison and I was living on my own, I walked to the public library and asked if they had a copy. The reference desk clerk took me to the shelf it was on. I spent hours reading it. Even came back on other days to read more. I even told Mom's bar friends, an Indian couple, who were important members of the local tribe about it. They thought they might be interested in the catalog since it explains federal loans, grants, and other benefits for Indian tribes. They asked me to repeat the name of the catalog. The Indian wife told me that there was an eagle spreading his wings in Madison on the hill and I could see him there. Dad asked if I needed any money and I said no. He told me it did not seem as though I needed any money. He asked whom I donated my money to. I told him I give to Boys Town. When I got back to Madison, I was watching the news and there was a picture of a man chopping firewood with an axe. He resembled my dad. He was wearing white tube socks with color stripes the way Dad did. He turned the socks inside out so the stripes were inside, which is a non-gang thing. In Chicago, if you were certain color tube socks, you could be considered to be in a particular gang. You could get killed. Dad chopped firewood for the wood-burning stove, the main source of heat. The news said this person gave $1 million to Boys Town, and that people should not judge people by the way they look, since he did not look as though he had $1 million. Boys Town sent me an honorary citizen certificate for my contribution. When I was 30, I was trying to save money, so I stopped using conditioner after I shampooed. Previously, I used it every day after my shampoo. When I was in my early 20s, I attended modeling school. I learned you should always use conditioner. I felt bad about how things went. I was no longer involved with the modeling agency. I was also trying to save money to be able to pay the rent. Then, quite a lot of my hair started falling out every day for a few days. I tried to solve the problem. I thought doing a hydrogen peroxide rinse would help open the hair pores. After a couple of days, I realized I was wrong about hydrogen peroxide. It makes your skin dry. It probably made some more hair fall out. I never learned much about hair loss in school, except that in high school the teacher said some people think it is from a lack of vitamins. I took daily vitamins, multivitamins, so I would not be lacking my vitamins. After a few days, I had only a few hairs on top of my head, but it was thick on the sides. I got minoxidil with a prescription, so my insurance paid for it. The dermatologist had told me about it. She told me not to bother putting it in the very back, since it does not seem to grow there. My hair started filling in again. It was thin above my forehead. Eventually, I felt okay about it. I saw a hair transplant surgeon for a consultation, but was not interested. I stopped using the minoxidil before going in to see him. The price tag was $20,000. It depends on how many transplants he does. I was thinking of scalp reduction and then filling it in. He said he could probably take about 1/3 of my scalp out, but I'd probably have about 10% stretch back. I later realized that you'd still have to take a hair regrowth product to make sure the transplants keep growing. So if I used the minoxidil and he just filled it in, then I could save quite a bit of money with fewer transplants. At least I looked at my options. I was not interested in the hair regrowth pill since it is not as easy to control the expense as a liquid minoxidil. My brothers, who were all older than me, also lost the hair around the age I did. The hair condition probably just delayed the loss. If I had gotten the minoxidil sooner and always used it, I'd probably have even more hair. So using conditioner and minoxidil regular gave me optimal results. I learned a few tricks. I reached that time in my life when I decided to quit smoking. When I started smoking on a regular basis in high school, I firmly decided I would quit before I got damaged from it. I got sick once or twice a year from for more than 2 weeks, what seemed like a cold. I read a newsletter from my general physician's office saying that if you had what seemed like a cold for more than 2 weeks, it would most likely be allergies. I made an appointment with an allergy doctor to get it checked. I found I was allergic to tobacco, dust, and dust mites. The allergy doctor recommended I start a 5-year allergy shot program to get rid of the allergy problem. I started the program and decided to quit smoking, especially since the price of cigarettes was going up and my income was limited. I figured I could do with more with my time if I was not sitting around chain smoking. I would have more spending money too. I was smoking 7 to 10 cartons a month since I was always chain smoking. I went cold turkey and then went to a bar where everybody was sitting around smoking. I thought I would just buy a pack and just smoke one or two. I was back to smoking. I used a 3-step patch for 2 weeks each step. I threw out my last pack of cigarettes on the way to the pharmacy to get the patches. I had already thrown out all my lighters and turned my cigarette ashtrays into candy dishes. I called my psychiatrist, Dr. Walters, almost every other day to either increase or decrease my psychiatric medication. She was fine with it since she knew I was quitting smoking. I decided to hospital at home and to also not drink any alcohol for 2 years. Since my general physician told me alcohol breaks down your willpower and then I'd be right back to smoking. He told me if you could quit for 2 years, I'd be considered a non-smoker. I did. After a while, I was able to be on less psychiatric medication too.